Hello and welcome to Buildings of Tomorrow. My name is John Lester, and in today's episode we are talking about sustainability and decarbonisation. I'm joined by Agustin Garcia del Castillo. He is the Sustainability Officer at Siemens Smart Infrastructure. Agustin, thank you for joining us.
Hi, John. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time and the opportunity.
It's a pleasure for us to also host you here. It's a great opportunity for us to talk about this very important topic, and it's a conversation that we have every day in the markets. It's one of the driving factors behind many of the topics and the parts of the industry where we work around operational technologies, etc. But it's also something that is changing quite a lot, and every day. New pressures and new expectations come into our industry, and that's where I'd like to start a little bit. Could you give us a quick snapshot on some of the really key drivers in our industry today? What's pushing this sustainability, this environmental impact expectation, and what's driving this push towards decarbonisation?
Yeah, John, actually it's true what you just said, that is part of the, let's say, daily conversation. Not only with our customers, and this is what I would really like to highlight, it's not only about customers, it's about different pressures that companies are having today. Main pressure is coming from investors, for instance, and all the financial markets. They really want to have more transparency on non-financial information. They really want to know how companies are performing in environmental, social, and governance topics. So they really are pushing this topic forward. Another pressure is coming is from regulations. We all are aware that European Green Deal is now really getting into a speed. There is other Green Deals all over the world that are coming with impacts in supply chain, in tax, in carbon taxation, and in other different topics, and from governments and obviously from society. I would say. The one of the main important stakeholders here are the society, and how the entire society is really increasing awareness about these topics. So different pressures, different levers pushing this topic forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned two huge ones there. The regulation expectation, the government, which through many different levers of their own have been pushing this topic, whether it's rebate systems or carbon trading and all these different kind of levers that they use to push. But it's a really interesting thing to hear that also from an investor perspective, it's now not a negotiable or a nice to have. It's almost a prerequisite to even qualify for a potential investment. You need to have not just clarity, but also a plan on how can you be more sustainable and how can you fulfill those societal expectations that we have.
Yeah, correct.
And I can imagine this is a shift in conversation because in general, that highlights the importance and not just as an investor or as a government, but for us in daily society, right? We want to deal with, we want to work for, we want to be involved in companies that have clear responsibility around this topic.
Yeah, it's completely true. When I was talking about the stakeholders before, I just forget one of the most important, at least in our company, which are employees. You cannot imagine the amount of colleagues that are addressing me or addressing other colleagues asking for this. So what are we doing in these topics? How do we deal with different things like climate change or waste of plastic or diversity even, which is a big part of the sustainability strategy. So definitely. I mean, it's impacting every place in the company, right?
Yeah, perfect. And actually, you just gave a little sneak peek into my next question, because when we talk about sustainability, it's not just environmental, it's not just energy efficiency, it's more than this. What do we mean when we talk about sustainability?
Yeah, you are absolutely right, John. I mean, when we talk about sustainability, and because we are in this business, we tend to think just in the decarbonization and energy topic, which obviously is a big part of the sustainability story. I wouldn't deny that. But there, we have other parts of the sustainability story. When we talk about sustainability, I like to talk about resource efficiency, for instance, and resource efficiency from different points of view. So time is a resource. How can we really save time and avoid disruption for our customer and ensure the business continuity. Another resource for companies are space, for instance, how we can make sure they optimize their space and make their companies more efficient. Another topic about resources is people. So how can we make people working in healthier environments with security, with safety, and especially in these pandemic times? So you're right. I mean, sustainability covers a huge variety of topics and is not only about energy.
Yeah, that's a huge scope, let's call it. And I guess this also highlights for us as an industry when we talk about buildings, the understanding and the awareness that we have in general as an industry about the impact that a building can have beyond just turning the lights on and off and turning the air conditioning on and off, but the productivity, the health, that feeling of achievement that a building can be core to for an employee is just as big an impact on what they're able to achieve during a day, and therefore how much space, how many people, how many resources a company needs to achieve their work in the end. So
especially in this type in these times, and I think it will change the industry completely, from due to COVID. So the way we work, the way we use buildings, especially in the office environment, will change dramatically. Now, the way you make this change is the one that it makes a difference. I mean, you have to make this change in the most efficient way, in the most healthy way for your employees, in the most secure way for your employees, and that implies a lot of changes, and technology obviously can support that and can be a key driver for all these changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we've already mentioned a couple, because the next topic I'd like to dive into a little bit more is some of the trends that are coming from these industry drivers. Climate change, regulation, the social responsibility are really pushing us to make different decisions. And then here we're talking about this scope of sustainability and how it's far more than just energy. What are some of those key trends? Like you mentioned a couple there, and COVID is obviously one of the big driving forces, which is not only forcing us to make changes, but giving us the opportunity to really change the way we go about it. What are you seeing in the industry that's coming out of this conversation, out of this forced review of how we do things today?
Yeah. Well, I'll see, and all the topics are connected, because, for instance, what I see a key trend, for the future, really, is all the topic of the electric fleet or electric mobility, let's say. Electric mobility brings together many topics about sustainability. First of all, brings the topic of energy. Obviously, we need electric supply from electric vehicle. We need the right infrastructure, the right charging infrastructure for that. We need the cars, obviously, and this is impacting automotive industry. But it changes us as well the way we go to work and we stay in the office, right? Because it needs to have more flexibility to use this electric vehicle. It will change the way we move into the city, so it's affecting the topic of the smart city, and it's affecting as well the way companies are really adapting the procurement strategy. We have a very ambitious target to become full electric by 2030, and it's changing completely the mentality about our logistics processes, about the incentives of our executives. So it's really changing the whole setup, and it's coming just for one trend with this electric vehicle. If you think in other trends like renewable energies or like grid edge and flexibility and adaptability, is impacting as well the whole value chain. So from one trend starting maybe not very related to other topics, at the end is impacting the whole value chain of the company.
Yeah, and maybe a quick question on that before we dive into a bit more detail, because you mentioned some really interesting topics there. What do you think is driving this relatability? Is it just because we're now in a more connected world, more and more systems are starting to leverage the same infrastructure? Technology is now passing information and relying on information from different places to be able to make smart decisions. Is that what's driving the interrelation between all of these different trends?
Yeah, of course, and it's about interrelation, but it's about connectivity, and it's about to get really insights from the data. So at the end of the day, it's about digitalization. And this is a really interesting conversation we are having with all these stakeholders that we were talking at the beginning. Is about how digitalization could support impact and even increase sustainability in our from different business. And then we start talking about predictive maintenance. We are talking about grid edge and how all the systems are connected, how we can combine supply and energy supply and energy demand with really flexible systems and flexible solutions, and how can we increase connectivity at the end of the day. And this is really, this is the digitalization topic. So customers and other stakeholders really asking us, okay, please help me to use digitalization to increase my sustainability performance. And this is a challenge. It's really a challenge, but it's a very interesting one, and it shows how everything is interconnected, interrelated.
Yeah, and as you say, it is a discussion as well, isn't it? Because the idea is not to just digitalize everything because we can. You have to have a plan. You have to understand what you want to achieve, and that conversation also requires a complete change in mindset to understand how does this interrelation then start affecting other things.
Yeah.
You mentioned before, as an example, you have companies that are making these commitments, fully electric by 2030, carbon neutral by 2050, or whatever it might be. And Siemens is one of the companies, but many companies, almost all of the really major global companies, are making some kind of commitment to the society about where they want to position themselves and what they want to try and achieve in the next 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Well, maybe a quick comment from you on how do we go about achieving that? Because you just mentioned a few things, and we talked just about e-mobility and the knock-on effect or the considerations you have to start taking into your thought process just from that one small piece. When you start talking about carbon neutrality across every business or every piece of a business that you have across the globe, if you had a suggestion or a comment, how do we start to on the journey to achieving this? How do we make this happen?
Yeah, and this is a real challenge by today. If you think the amount of companies that are really committing to be full renewable energy renewable from 2030 is more than 1,000 companies, the biggest one in the world. There is no literally capacity to supply all these companies with green electricity or renewable energy. There is a lot of things going on, but it will not be enough. So that's why I always say, look, first of all, reduce and be efficient. It's not that you can buy all the renewable energy of the world, because there will be no renewable energy enough to supply all the companies. My first advice with all the companies or the colleagues or the stakeholders that I talk is be efficient. Reduce your energy consumption, be really smart in how you use your energy. You can even produce your own energy, but don't rely completely on renewable energy, because there will not be enough. And this is increasing. The demand is increasing and increasing every year. So let's be smart. Let's use all the tools and all the solutions that we have to reduce energy and to be more efficient and really use the resource more wisely. And then, I'm positive to achieve all the targets, but we need to do it wisely.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. And I guess it may even apply to some of those other aspects of sustainability beyond energy. Is first, make sure that what you're using is really what you need. Make sure that what you're doing is that there is as little waste as possible. And I guess part of that process is also having a really critical look at what you do and why, and finding also changes in how you do things, because this is the other point that we see often in these kinds of conversations, is that it's also a good opportunity to change the status quo, to do things differently, to think about problems in a different manner, et cetera, et cetera. How does this sit for you? You have many of these discussions. You know that we have a challenge, as you say, committing to renewable energy and then making it happen is fine from one company, but then if there's nothing to buy, then what can you do? How do we, if we take a step back and look across the industry in general, how are we starting, or what are we doing to try and get ourselves closer to that point?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would advise all the companies and all the customers and in general everybody to look for very, very careful about their processes. If you take the whole value chain from the very start beginning to how to procure different goods and materials, how to transport all these goods to your factory, how do you manufacture all these goods and services, and how do you deliver them, then you can find a lot of inefficiencies that you can really fix. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this is how I was talking before about digitalization and transparency. Yeah. If you really want to identify the problems, you really need to have transparency on all of them. Mm-hmm. And all the digital tools that we have now in place, we can really use them to have more transparency and then start to really step by step reducing in every step of the value mm-hmm. chain. Yeah. And there is where we start to see savings and we start to see efficiencies, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of start procuring energy without more thinking or without reasoning, right?
Yeah. I understand. So of course we need to generate more sustainable energy. Mm-hmm. And of course we need to get better at storing that, at distributing that, at being flexible. But on the other hand, we also have to understand better what we do, and like you described as that first step, make the decisions that can reduce that expectation, that requirement to its minimum viable. You know, mm-hmm. that still enables you to do your business, but you're minimizing the impact that can be, and this is a knock-on effect, because this is also a cost saving. This is this enables many more things from a business perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically to make a balance between demand and supply, right? Mm-hmm. And what is happening between demand and supply? What is the grid edge, right? Yep. So it's really okay. Let's take care of about demand, so about how we use resources. Mm-hmm. Let's take a look about how we procure these resources. So it's about supply and what is happening and how digitalization is affecting the connection between the two of them, which is the grid edge, right? Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. No, perfect. No, and then as you say, once you expand that conversation beyond just the energy aspect, and you start to think of all the resources with the people and how they work and why they work and where they work and you know, the spaces and the environments where they're working to make them as productive and drive achievement as much as possible, then this becomes a holistic picture, which makes this overall sustainability vision.
Correct. And this is what we started the conversation. I mean, we have started the conversation with the energy topic, but then we've been talking about electric vehicle, which is partially related to energy, but it's not completely energy. We have been talking about the space, which is a completely different topic. We talk about air quality and people and productivity, which is another completely different topic about energy. So and this is why it's so challenging and so, let's say, nice, this challenge, because it really covered a lot of topics, right? But as a summary, I would say it's about resource efficiency and business continuity. So how can we really make sure that the customers, the society, is really implementing sustainable business continuity for everything, right?
Interesting. Yeah, perfect. Augustine, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a really interesting conversation. Mm-hmm. And I get the feeling that we'll be talking again, because I want to dive a little bit deeper into that sustainability topic and talk a little bit more around decarbonization as well. So I'm sure that we'll invite you back. But thank you so much for visiting us today. Okay. And thank you to everyone who's listening to us. Please remember to subscribe, like, comment, and share this episode. Wherever you're looking at our video or our audio, please subscribe there so you can catch up with our weekly episodes. And stay tuned for more conversations with Augustine around sustainability and decarbonization, because as you can tell from this first conversation, there are many different aspects that we want to talk about in more detail. So thank you all, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.